We have about 100. Come on around this way so everybody can see. We have about 100 people here tonight, and we really want to thank you for coming out. We love kind of previewing the airplanes and giving people some time and to visit. And tomorrow, which our birthday, is going to be a bit chaotic, to say the least, and it'll be a little bit tougher. When the Air Force called me about this airplane, people know I cannot turn down aircraft. It is a sickness. The restoration guys will say, you know, oh, there's another airplane back here. Where did this one come from? And, you know, something will show up. And it is a sickness. I am a hoarder. I'm an airplane hoarder by nature. There you go. Uh-oh, careful.
Look out.
But the F-84 came out of Chanute, and you know Chanute closed down. It was one of those Air Force facilities that got kind of handed off to the community, and it had finally run its course up there. And this airplane was slated to go to another facility, or quite frankly become beer cans, which is something that I just cannot fathom and will not tolerate airplanes getting cut up. And as you know, when this one came in, it looked rough, and it was rough, but where's our restoration guys? Raise your hands. Raise your hands, all the restoration guys. Dan, go up to our chairs there, raise your hand. You stand and do stuff too. Dan is back there working on airplanes. But I don't worry about anything that comes in. After the F-102, which essentially looked like it had been out in the bottom of the ocean for 150 years, and the amount of animal skulls that came out of it we donated to the Smithsonian. It was more of an anthropology project than it was an airplane. But we have reached a point and a skill level, both in the restoration of our flying aircraft, if you know the P-51, and the quality of that airplane, and how we feel the airplane. And when I mentioned the P-51, I have my dad here, Bob Friend, who is my adopted father, and he's sitting back there, right back there. Let's hear it for him, Tuskegee Airmen. Bob, you know, is the heart of this museum, and when we really started and increasing the complexity of what we were doing, the P-51, if you think about that, remember we hadn't been flying for about 5 years. We hadn't done any heavy line restorations for years. And in a matter of 6 years, we've gone from not flying to flying 7 aircraft, and we've taken in 10 or 12 strays and restored them. And that isn't me. People come up to me and say, oh, you did a great job and this and that. That's the volunteers, that's the docents, and the staff, you know, Greg Kinney, and all of our Carol and the staff, and Bill Hughes, and Frank, and Don, and Larry, and the Larrys, I should say Larry in the plural sense. But all of the restoration folks, both in the non-flying airplanes, in the flying aircraft, we've gone from roughly 14 airplanes to 51 now airframes that we have. And restoration does not know this, but I couldn't turn down another airplane. In a month, we're going to get, now this is outside of Air Force inventory, this will be our aircraft, like the 104 and the F-100, but we have a donor that has donated an F-106, a complete F-106, to the museum, and it will be delivered to the museum. There's no cost, it literally will show up on the tarmac. And that will mean that with the exception of the Voodoo, we have all of the Century Series fighters, which is a big deal when we talk about the Miles hangar and Korea, Vietnam, and the whole evolution of the jets. So, and that's a guy, and I want to give you guys credit, who called me up and said, I've seen the restorations, I bought 2 of these, One is going to a mechanics school to have the kids play on it. The other one is in very good condition, and I don't want it destroyed, and I bought it so you could restore it. So the restoration guys, he told me that. I didn't lobby him. The guy called me out of the blue and said, I've seen what you do, and I want you to restore this airplane. And he literally bought the airplane. He could have only bought the one, because he was going to put it up in a school somewhere up in Central California. But he bought the second one for us, and he's going to truck it here and deliver it to the museum. So the restoration crews and the docents and everybody that does all of this hard work, people see that. And you guys are the guys that make all this stuff happen. And we just kind of sit back and try to make sure that you have a good palette, that you have enough money, and which is always a challenge in a museum. We're constantly raising money, but that you have enough money and that you have the resources to realize your vision for the facility, because that is my job. If I can stand back and help all of you realize your vision, we're all going to be successful. And so, again, thank you from the board. Dan, you want to get up here and say something? Come on up here. Dan Dorrington is out flying today. He looks so happy.
Hard to get up here behind Fred, I gotta say, because he's never lost for words. But how many veterans do we have here tonight? Wow. Hey, happy Veterans Day. You know, it's a special day, special week. Anyway, you know, we're known for our flying museum, you know, buzzing up and down the valley. We've worked really diligently to get these aircraft back in the air. A lot of heavy lifting. Fred, the P-51 restoration was managed by Fred, did a wonderful job. But I got to tell you, what he touched on there, this restoration crew. And the crew, you know, I got to say, you know, I think the youngest guy may be in his late 50s, and they're up over 90 years old. And I tell you what, they attack these airplanes like nothing I've ever seen. And I got to say that we're known for our restorations. And what Fred had said about the F-106, which I didn't know anything about, kind of characterizes what's going on around here. Now we're given these airplanes because of what you guys have done in the restoration. And it's, I can't say enough about it. I've helped a little bit out there. I remember a couple of years ago, I was heading back north to Alaska, and it was the F-86, and it was out by the fence. I was just telling Al about it. It was out by the fence, and it was about 110 degrees. Tom Kruger and I were looking at it, and we go, we got to move that thing. I mean, and we hooked the tug onto it, and it was on its landing gear for the first time, and we couldn't move it. And we tried to move it for a couple of weeks. And so finally, Tom hooked onto it with the tug and pulled on it. I got underneath it with a hammer and started beating on the brakes. And we got it to roll, and we got it up in the shade up next to the building so the guys could work on it over the summer. And I came back and I was just astonished at what they had done with it. And it wasn't because we moved it, it just made it a little easier for the guys to work on it. But anyway, all this stuff is very important to what, you know, our narrative and what we're trying to display. And this looks like something that came out of a box. It looks like the model that you built as a kid, that I built as a kid. And it goes a long ways to help in the museum. And if you had a chance, the new hangar is under construction over here, and they've tied 2 semi-loads of rebar out there. They've tied over 100,000 pounds of rebar for the new hangar. And it's incredible, and part of the success I have to give to the restoration crew. That's why we've got this new hangar. But anyway, I want to thank all you folks for coming tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. You know, the hangar will house, when we decided on the design, it should be 10,000 feet bigger because I keep flying airplanes. I wonder if they make them where they slide further down. But this particular airplane, a guy who played a very critical role in this, his name is on the frame rail, and I want to talk about him, and I want to talk about him in the context of, you know, those of you who knew Ken Miles, Ken brought me in, and we're going to recognize some of the original volunteers, and I go back here in a minute. Ken Miles brought me in, and at that time, I was probably about 35 years old, and I was one of the youngest guys walking around here, and there's all these mega millionaires running around and admirals, and they had absolutely no use for me. And they would tell me, just go sit in the back and don't bother anyone. And if we need coffee or we want you to do something, we'll call you and you can come do it. And you know, I would always loved airplanes, and so I kind of did my journeyman time. But Ken, as I started work with Ken, and later in Ken's life, towards the end of Ken's life, the thing that Ken allowed happen was, and some of you have heard this, but Ken would say, what kind of airplane is it? And I'd tell him, and he'd say, what condition is it in? And it was delightful for me because I'm an aerospace engineer and I could actually talk to somebody who knew what the hell I was talking about, which was kind of fun. And he'd say, just go get it on the ramp, don't worry about what it costs, get it up on its gear, and then come back to me with what you need, and take care of it. And when I went over the top of the trench every time after one of those airplanes, I knew that Ken had my back. And Ken, every time, up until he passed away, would call for updates, want to know what was happening with the airplane. I like to joke that I was his last executive officer. If those of you in the military know what I'm talking about. And I would give him updates, and he would be keenly interested, literally up until about a week before he passed away. He never saw the Sabre get finished, or the F-100, which were the airplanes that he wanted. But what I'm leading into is there's a guy here tonight that has done that, and that's Al Dempsey. Where is Al Dempsey? Is he hiding somewhere? Where is he? There he is. You know, Al has pulled me aside, and in Ken's vein said, go get whatever the project is, and I'll take care of it. Come on up here, because you need this. Oh, this would not happen. Some of you were at the 100, come on up. Some of you were at the 100 thing, know about Al's involvement in that, but with this airplane as well, and honestly, the Miles hangar with Al's involvement, a lot of this stuff would not have happened if we hadn't done it. Yes, his name's on the frame rail. We're going to have half the airplanes in the museum named after him. But you flew this airplane, so it is fair. But the guy just basically says, go get the airplane, figure out the resources you need, tell me what it is. And he referenced Ken. I'll never forget the first time. I think he was touched by what Ken did. And he said, I believe in that, and make it happen. And it is rewarding as a manager to have somebody that trusts you like that, because this guy's done a lot for the museum. And to the restoration guys, you know, a lot of this wouldn't happen without. And so when you see him around here, you know, you need to thank him, and we appreciate it. And putting your name on the side of the airplane, I think, is the least we can do. So if you want to say a few words.
I just want to say a couple of words.
There you go.
I'm not going to give a big speech, but I want you to look at this airplane and look at that canopy. There's only one seat in that airplane. And when you fly that airplane, the missions that we flew were basically solo missions. You can see the way they painted this airplane. It reflects the fact that we could carry nuclear devices and drop atomic bombs. And that's quite a responsibility. And we had to do that as a pilot, as a navigator, as a bombardier, as a gunner, as a radio man. And we had to do that by ourselves and stand alert and have targets in Russia. And this was in the mid-50s. And there are a lot of pilots that did that. And you know what? The best part of the whole thing is that red phone never rang.
Let's hear it for him. One more time. God bless him. So I don't go back to 1996. I go back about, as I said, 16 years ago, and I remember a lot of the founders, and we're going to have some of the founders here tomorrow for the 20th birthday party. And a lot of them, God bless them, and their families have gone on. And it's weird when you think about this and you kind of go back and people joke that Judy tells me I got gray hair, and you know, I go Greg, Mario, Lisa, Carol. There's a lot of it, but no, it's weird in having raised children here, but we are a family, and so tonight on the docent side, I want to recognize some of the 1996, and I need. Where is Greg or somebody to Vanna the little awards that we have for them? Do we have somebody?
I got it, Greg.
You got it? There we go, Greg. By the way, this kid, if I had 10 of him, I could conquer the world. And there's a great kid. Somebody, and this is has become one of my very close kind of personal inspirations. Bob Brand is up here. I'm going to recognize him. Tuskegee Airman. Greg, you want to remember Tampa. Oh, he's going to stand. There he is. Bob Brand. It's not often. And I have another gentleman sitting right next to him, Mr. SR-71. There we go.
Hey, Bob.
Hello, himself, Bob Gilland. You could really say that it was fun. I got to, and I'm killing a little time here, so I got to sit in on a presentation of one of the SR-71 drivers the other night. Was out at Thermal and was talking about flying the airplane. And all I could think about was Mr. Gilland, who flew every one of them, right?
Oh, yeah.
From the first flight.
Yeah.
And so you really are the father of supersonic flight. I'm on flight. So again, if you get a chance, it's not often you meet people who are milestones in the aviation history, and not to mention just absolutely wonderful human beings. We've got a couple from here today, so I want to recognize you before we get our presentation. Thank you for being here so much. And then I got a guy standing back there that is a very humble guy who doesn't even know I'm going to mention him. There we go. Very humble guy, Tom Nightingale, president of Planes of Fame, right there. Look at that, there he is. He flies Bob Friend's airplane, the P-51. Tom flies the P-51. Anytime we call him, he comes out here and flies that airplane. He does it for nothing. He volunteers his time, and he flies Bob around. Bob's flown with Tom, and you know, selfless, completely selfless individual. So thank you very much. You're still president of Planes of Fame, right? Yes, chairman. Close enough. If you get a chance, you get over the hill. Planes of Fame has a tremendous collection, and one of the best collections in the world, and go over and see those guys. They're every bit as aircraft fanatics as we are, probably better than we are as far as aircraft fanatics. They certainly fly a ton of stuff. They're out at Chino. You're at Chino Airport there, and you can see them. And that is as a kid growing up, you know, I'm kind of a kid in a candy store. I was a ramp rat. I used to go out to VNI's when they would park the Baba Black Sheep airplanes out there, an executive suite, the B-25 that's coming in at 2 o'clock. I used to go out there and play on those airplanes because back then there weren't no fences, and the owners of the airplanes would let you run around and run in them. And the C-130s out there, the ramps were down and open, and you could do whatever you wanted to do. A lot has changed since then, but it's amazing that with the executive suite, I have a picture of me. It's about a 6-year-old kid in front of that airplane, and that Corsair, you know how life kind of intersects. That Corsair was there too at the time. I don't remember it. I don't have any pictures of it, but it was part of the airplanes that flew at Baba Black Sheep at Clay Lacey's place. And if you went fast forward as a volunteer at the Air Museum, which is what I do, I couldn't imagine that life intersects like that. These things follow me, and I get to meet these probably just kind of heroes. Your dad, Rob Gilliland's here, so Robbie takes him everywhere. You got to hear for this guy. Caregiver Karen, also with Bob friend Karen, stand up. Come on. Selfless. As I talked about selfless people, Karen and Rob just get their parents around. They're an inspiration. All right. I killed enough time now. Oh, Bob Lilac, another guy there, little devil in the blue flight suit there. Another guy I should point out flew the NF-104. Your airplane's on the stick at Edwards, right?
Yeah, he put it there.
He put it there. Bob Lilac, you get a chance, one of the suborbital pilots on the NF-104, way before the space shuttle went out. Okay, are we ready? Color guard. I want to welcome all of you here, and we're going to get into our program today. And what I'd like to start is, if I get everybody to rise for the presentation of colors.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hail at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watch were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave for the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Sorry. I didn't realize I had it on your phone.
Do you want me to move? Okay.
Let's hear it for Palm Springs High School, Junior Air Force, ROTC. And on that national anthem, huh? fantastic. Let's hear it for her. But we're going to really cover a little, two areas of ground today. You know, this is our, you can tell by our shirts and a lot of our stuff, this is our 20th anniversary. And it's amazing when you think about it. I've been here 16 years. I knew a lot of the founders. There are some people I did not know when I came in. But the vision that they had, they started it out as a World War II museum. We have continued to grow. We started with 14 aircraft. We now have 50 aircraft in the collection. We're about to move up to about 54. We have a MiG-15, a MiG-17, and an F-106 coming in. They're going to continue to round out the collection as we rescue, and I say most of the time now it is rescue aircraft from the scrap heap or being cut into beer cans and try to preserve them for generations to come. I can't imagine that Bob Pond, when he started, knew the legacy that he was going to create, but we need to take a moment and say a prayer to Bob and thank you. A moment of silence for the collection and starting the museum. Please, just a moment of silence for Bob Pond. Thank you. What I'm going to do today is we had an event where we raised the beam and dedicated, and we're going to do the same thing with the Vietnam and Korea hangar, which is down south. That will be dedicated in March or April this year. And I say March or April because you never quite know if the weather's going to cooperate and everything. But we're going to be putting a big splash out there about when we dedicate that. For members, you will get a sneak preview of that hangar. So, and watch the papers and the PR we'll be talking about when we're going to open it. But I'm going to do something a little unusual today, is I'm going to read the names of the founding directors. I'm also going to present, and maybe if I could have Bob Lilac, why don't you come up and help me advance this? Come on up here with some material. We're going to have a couple of people come up. If they're here today, I have something for them. But last night we did something for volunteers, and there was one of the founding volunteers that couldn't make it, but I noticed is in the front row, is Vonna Westfall. Vonna, we have a little something for you. Where's Larry? Is Larry here? Come on up. Should bring her up here. Vonna has never, ever, oh, don't turn on the waterworks. She's getting me going if you do that. Vonna has been always an incredible supporter, and for many years cut our birthday cake and was here every birthday. So Larry, for your mother, and Larry is also one of the founding volunteers. We love this guy, he works in restoration. Vonna, this is for you, sweetheart. Thank you so much. All right, I'm going to read the names. And I have an indication that some of these folks are here. If you're here, please come up when I read your name, and we have something for you. But these were our founding members, our founding directors and charter signers. Bill Byrne, John Duncan, Mark Gubin, Phil Hickson, John Lake, Harold Madison, Charles Meyer, Rosine Supple, Harold Williamson. Harold is here today. As I said, a moment of silence for our former chairman, Bob Pond. I know we have Fritz is here today. Fritz, come on up. He was our vice president and one of our founders. Let's hear it for Fritz. Fritz, thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you very much. Easy. Let's hear it for her. You know, the museum, we don't own these artifacts. We protect them and we pass them on. Most of these directors are not here today and charter members because they have passed away. So don't think that these people didn't want to be with us. They're here with us in spirit, but almost the entire group of the founders has passed away. So when we're reading any of these, this is important. John Baker, Jack Bernabucci, Charles Braun, Lynn Crandall, Captain John G. Duncan, U.S. Navy retired, Gloria Greer, the Reverend Bradford Hall, Clifford Henderson, Dennis James, Admiral Karma, U.S. Navy retired, Rear Admiral William Narva, U.S. Navy retired, Richard Parker, Joe Pond, Bob Pond's wife, James Shea, Harry Kassinger, Louis Mace, Charles Meyer, Thomas Moore, Douglas Silver, Mary Sorrento, Cooper Stubbs, and Charles Taylor. Those are our founding board of directors and founding members. Please, let's hear a round of applause for them. Keep them in your prayers. Thank you. The other thing, last night we thanked our docents. We have 320 docents that run the facility. We have 10 employees. The docents do everything else. And you can see this is a fairly complex operation. We're probably one of the most unusual facilities in the country in that respect. And so one of all the white shirts that I see around here, we got some red shirts out there. Let's hear it for all these docents. This would not happen without them. Now, you know what they say about a museum director or anybody who manages a museum, what their handshake is, don't you? Like this. Because the three things we're always chasing. We're chasing the 3 T's. Time, treasure, or talent. Because we need the fuel to keep things going. And we would not be able to do this without people in the current board dedicating their time, their treasure, and their talent. One thing I do want to recognize today is I got another guy over there that is an unsung hero, that is my counterpart in managing the museum and is just an all-around wonderful guy, and that's Bill Bramer. Bill, let's hear it for Bill. He is my counterpart. He helps me run the facility. His wife jokes whenever I call, because it's generally every day. We have a chat about 5 or 6 o'clock. I want to thank him. I see some notable people in the back. Bill Hughes, Bill, a former volunteer, head of our volunteers. Bill, he's an executive board member. Any other members of our board out there? Because my eyes aren't as good as they used to be. I see, there we go, let's hear it. Yeah, come on up here, you do so much. Come on up here, you do all this stuff. Come here. This is another guy, while we're talking about docents, Dr. Thompson, filming me. The Vietnam bracelet was his idea, and we're collecting the bracelets and all the POW MIA stuff that's going in the new hangar. This is the guy that came up with that. When we talk about people that make this stuff happen, here's another guy right here that does it. Thank you very much, Dr. Dave. Now, we wouldn't be able to also do this without treasure. And one of the things that we embarked on when we started getting these aircraft done is we had to go out and acquire them, and they're not cheap. They're expensive. They can be anywhere from millions of dollars to hundreds of thousands of dollars, depending on what we're doing. And Ken Miles, before he passed away, had a motto, and he would call me up and he'd say, what do you need, and what do you want to go get? And I'd tell him, and he'd say, go get it, negotiate the deal, don't look over your shoulder, get the best deal you can. He always had my back. And one of the things when you're trying to acquire artifacts, to know that somebody has your back when you're trying to negotiate to get something is invaluable, because it means you can really focus on the acquisition of the aircraft. That started with the F-105, we've gone down the line. Another guy that has stepped up, and if you're an F-100 driver, which I know there's a couple of guys out here, he stepped up, and he stepped up on this airplane, is Al Dempsey. Let's get Al to stand up here. Come on, we gotta stand up. Al told me with the F-100, and the F-100, without keeping you all for a long period of time, the acquisition of that airplane was rather a mess, because the owner had resold it about 7 times to various different people who all thought they owned it. And he ended up being a guest of some other government people, so we had a real challenge unwinding that airplane. But Al was patient, he worked with us, he went up and surveyed the airplane initially, talked to the original owner and helped me out, and it wouldn't have happened without Al Dempsey on the F-100. The same thing with this airplane. This aircraft that we are going to unveil today flew into Chanute. It retired there, and when it retired at Chanute, it was never to leave again. Unfortunately, as air museums go, the air museum there just didn't make it. And eventually the city decided they didn't want to fund the facility anymore. All of the aircraft up there then have an option whether they're going to go to the scrapper, which a lot of the large aircraft there will most likely be scrapped because they will never fly out again. They're too expensive to move. And in this case, we found out about this F-84, and people who know me will tell you I cannot tolerate airplanes being scrapped. It drives me absolutely crazy, because once they're gone, you can never get them back. They're a piece of history that's gone into the smelter. So we, again, Al flew this airplane. This aircraft is probably one of the most colorful airplanes in our inventory. It is a nuclear strike fighter in that it was designed to fly nuclear strike missions in the early 50s at the height of the Cold War. What Al tells me is you couldn't even tell your wife what you were doing, right? You just had to go to work and not talk about it. So I'm going to get Al to come up here and say a few words. If you want to come up and talk about the airplane a little bit. And if I could ask Greg, please unveil the F-84. Then we're going to get signers up here. We remove, and hopefully it doesn't get caught on any sharp, pointy things. Why don't you come up here and say a few words? You'll notice the name on the rail is the pilot of the airplane.
Fred, I'm going to make this short. But you know, in every airplane like that, there's history. And you're looking at history standing before you today. This airplane was delivered to the U.S. Air Force in 1955, Bergstrom Air Force Base in Austin, Texas, and was delivered to the Strategic Air Command. And people look at you and say, fighter? For the Strategic Air Command, and all they had was bombers. Well, that wasn't quite the case. Strategic Air Command at that time had 10 wings of fighters, and originally they were designed to protect the B-29s and B-50s and B-36s that flew in the late 40s and early 50s. Of course, that all went down the tubes when the B-47 came along, and it didn't need fighter protection anymore. They changed the mission for their fighter units, and we became, they were interceptor fighter units, and then just became fighter units, and our mission was to drop atomic weapons and targets in Russia. And that's what we were trained to do. It came with a system called the LAB system, L-A-B-S, Low Altitude Bombing System. It was designed that you would fly at treetop level to your target. You would pull up either at an IP or directly over the target. And we had equipment in the airplane that would drop the bomb. And if you were at an IP, it would throw the bomb to the target. If you over the target, we do what we call an over-the-shoulder, where the airplane was you pull up at 4Gs, do a loop at the top, you climb, the bomb would release, go up another 6,000 feet, and drop on the target. And that's what we practiced. There was a bomb called the Mark 7, and there's a picture of it over here on this, on these pictures here. You can see that ugly looking bomb was an atomic nuclear device, and that's what we were trained to do. After it served with the Air Force in 1961, this plane went to the National Guard. And the National Guard, the Air Force got out of the F-100 or F-84 pretty quickly and moved to the F-100. But the National Guard flew in various units, the F-84 until 1971. And the last stop for this plane was at Otis Air Force Base in Massachusetts on Cape Cod, and it was there for about almost 10 years. And then it ended up, as Fred has already mentioned, in Illinois, at Van Tool, Illinois. That was their technical training base, Van Tool, for the Air Force, and it's where they taught mechanics how to take apart an airplane and put it back together. And I dare say this airplane has probably been taken apart, put back together at least a dozen times. So, and then it went to the museum in 1993, and Bob's already told you how we got that. But it's a beautiful airplane, and when this tour is over, if there are any F-84 pilots in the room, I know there's a few, as is usual in these situations, we'd like them to come up and sign our.
Let's hear it for Al. Al, you're not done yet.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and by the way, Mr. Gilliland, you flew straight-wing version of this aircraft in combat, correct? So, you want to find out about that. That takes a lot of nerve. You flew it in England, huh?
You'll get to sign it.
You got to get over here and sign it. We'll get you over here. All right. Now, I'm not going to douse you with this, okay? This is normally what we did to the EA6 drivers. When the EA6 retired, they were in flight suits, and they were, I think you probably hit me over the head with the champagne bottle. Yeah, there you go. But we're going to open this up. I want you to take a nice big swig of it. Come on, get that bravado going there. You ready? All right. Hopefully, Greg, and oh, by the way, we've told, he's not standing his head back there this year, right? You're good, right? Okay, no head stand. All right. Here we go. You can't take the fighter pilot out of these guys. All right, any F-84 drivers, come on up here, let's get us some champagne, and we're going to have you sign the airplane. You flew the F-84, let's go ahead and pour this out. We got pens here, we'll have you sign the aircraft, so come on up. Now, one other thing we want to do, Flight 84, now you're all the way from Switzerland, and he actually flew our F-104 as well. Amazing. I gotta get Larry out of here, because Larry's got me on a time schedule here, but Harry, another, and Indian Wells, leader of Indian Wells for a period of time, right? Where you just herded cats over there or whatever you did. I swept up. You swept up, there you go. There you go. One other thing I want to do is, how many World War II vets do we have in here? World War II vets, raise your hand. These guys were part of the founding group. World War II vets. God bless them. When we talk about American exceptionalism, that's you guys right there. You did it. Let's hear it again. World War II vets. A World War II 100-year-old veteran. Right over here. Bring him up. Bring him up. Here we go. You sign the airplane, gentlemen. There you go. There's the pen. Don't be shy. Here he comes. This is Don from World War II. What'd you do, Don? Were you a pilot?
No, I was on the ground crew, armor room.
He was an armor. He armed the aircraft. Let's hear it for him. All right, gentlemen, come on over here and sign the airplane. Don't be shy. There's champagne here. It's only got a little bit of Dempsey slide in it. That's a fighter pilot slide. It'll make you strong. Come on, get in there. This is our something we do here. Everybody leaves their marker on the birds, and then as people come in, we actually have people add to the signatures. We've done that on any aircraft. We've had some folks come in and work on the EA6 and things like that. They come in and sign the airplane. Get this done, and then I'm standing between you and birthday cake, which is something I should not be doing. You and sugar. Are they ready over there? Are you cutting cake diligently? You should begin, because once they show up, the cake will be cut. All right, we're signing. See Marie over there with our Huey, who supports our Huey over there. Wait, Marie, come on. There she is. Very shy, but wonderful lady. Absolutely salt of the earth. Marie, she helped us with that Huey, that UH-1 out there. Thank you so much. All right, careful. Now this aircraft has really caused some conversation within our ranks, and that is, notice this is the livery of the airplane at the time it flew. It's got that mushroom cloud on the side, and people are really shocked that the airplane would have that. Y'all can come up and look at it when we're done, but it's actually caused quite a bit of conversation. But that's what this airplane flew in. Every aircraft that we have will eventually be in the exact livery that it was in when it operated, so it'll be historically accurate. We're not completely there yet. Some of the airplanes have kind of stuff that was put on them because we acquired them from somewhere else. But eventually they'll all be in livery of wherever they were operating in, so we can create some history with them.
Let me add, this airplane is in delivery from the 81st Fighter Bomber Wing, 91st Fighter Bomber Squadron. It was based in Brentwater, England, part of the USAPI arm of our armed services. And it did have a nuclear mission during the period it was delivered. It was one of the first ones delivered in 55 to the Air Force.
All right, with that, we're going to go ahead, and it looks like they are serving cake. I am not going to stand between you anymore. Have a great day. Remember, we're going to do about 30 programs this year, so keep checking, check the website, check the paper. Thank you very much. God bless you all. Have a wonderful day.